Do I do you first?
She's not, I don't think she's there
But I
at all.
haven't played it.
Oh, she's not right yet. Oh, I think that's.
Sorry, I just wanted to like where.
Yeah, you just say she's
Okay.
excused.
So Gina is excused, she's out sick, so. And the ELA curriculum would like to be moved up into Joe's report area for this schedule of events here. Do we need to vote on it or just a consensus? That's okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys mind if I move that up?
No,
That's from other business, more business, okay. All right, so getting started, I need a motion to accept the public and non-public minutes of April 5th.
Who made the motion?
I'll second. Any discussion? I just had one thing, I think it was me that accepted the non-public and public minutes, not just moved to accept the non-public minutes, not Holly for that meeting, because that was the one I got. That was the first thing I did, right? After I was made chair. I don't remember. I was pretty sure it was me. But that was my only.
Well, if you were the chair, would you have made the motion? I mean, not that you couldn't, but would that? I don't know.
Oh, that's true. So you made the motion. Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, okay, so I'm not paying this down. Perfect. Sorry, I'll get this eventually.
Do you usually laugh at us with your video off?
I'm usually in comfy clothes and suffer while I'm watching.
I know, Donna in the flesh.
And then under committee reports for HASP advisory, I'm the co-chair, not the chair. Or was it that meeting? That's all I had. Anybody else? Anything?
Oh, I didn't.
So we got a motion and a second, so all those in favor? As amended, sorry. Aye. All those opposed? Motion to accept the public minutes of April 11th.
I'll make that motion.
One second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. 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 All those opposed? Accepted. All right, citizen comments. Seeing any in-house, anybody online? Have anything? Unless you guys have some. I was gonna say, yes, sorry. Yeah,
I'm good.
Maria, do you want to ask the online people?
Sure, Chris, do you have any comments?
No, I don't, but I am at home. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. If you have any questions, I'll be listening and watching.
Thank you.
And iPhone, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Thanks. Melissa, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. And Teresa, do you have any comments?
I don't have any at this time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, superintendent's report.
I'll keep it brief. So I know we have the ELA curriculum on the agenda. But we're busy doing the reorganization tasks from the 23-24 budget adoption. So we're busy doing that work right now. I know the Hinsdale Middle High School is currently working on their master schedule. I contacted Drummer Woodson and the student handbook is still under review. They expect to be completed this month, which is cutting it very close. But as I have indicated in the past, I'll have some recommendations to strengthen our handbook and policies and practices going forward. We're still working with the exploratory committee looking at Winchester. So we have another meeting coming up with them sometime soon.
Sometime soon, we're waiting to hear back.
But very interested in exploring a relationship with Hinsdale. You will see that Justin has forwarded a board dashboard for you to review. So if you have any comments or want anything different, just let us know, and we'll be sure to do that. In culture, climate, community, I just wanted to mention that ESSER has been approved for 23-24, and funding is available to contract with the New Hampshire Learning Institute to help us with a series of community conversations around culture, climate, for graduate work. And I think that will be very important to us moving forward. So that's my report. Any questions?
And can I just clarify that ESER 2 has been approved, ESER 3 has not yet been approved.
Okay.
It's still,
Okay.
we sent it out, it was returned, we're making some revisions, and that's where New Hampshire Learning Initiative is.
What's the other thing?
And we added an ESER 3.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions? All right. Moving into financial.
Madam Chair, you have my report. I can answer any questions.
I don't just go look at it, because we just got it.
Yeah, I was gonna
today,
say, I
so
looked at
if we
the
have
first-
questions, we email, like, we just got it when it showed up, so.
Oh, but the report's still part of the packet. Yep.
I mean, the actual
financials,
financials,
yeah.
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 financials, yeah.
Whenever you
All right,
want to ask, I'll be happy to answer.
awesome. Thank you.
Oh, and I just wanted to ask, so do we think that the free and reduced number has actually gone down, or just people applying because of COVID and it being free, no one applied?
So I think there's a little yes to everything. So it is easier for folks to apply because they can apply two ways now. They can do it paper,
Or
the way we've always done it, or they can do it online through the Titan system. Less people are applying. So many of the people who apply don't qualify. And I mean, it's, if you look at that chart that I put here, you can see the numbers are
Yeah.
going down steadily. And it's a problem. And I think that in talking with other BAs around the state, everybody seems to be experiencing the same thing, that people aren't applying, people, and part of that is definitely from COVID, where it was free.
yeah, because up in like till 2018, we hit that 50% mark every year except for 2008.
Right,
So
right.
that's a pretty long spurt to then
Right.
maybe their numbers need to be adjusted.
And I was concerned about the no longer applying for you know, for free meals in the summer.
Right.
We're gonna get it this summer as on a different lunch program, but it'll be the last year unless things change. I have talked with Eric Stever, who's our free and reduced coordinator. She has said that she's seen the numbers go up since October 1, but it's the October 1 numbers that matter. And then the other way to qualify, because we don't qualify that way, and we haven't for years, since 2015, is through that MAPper program,
Right.
which is sort of random, and there's no way to contradict it. There's nobody to ask. There's nothing that you can do. It just is, you are either qualified or you're not qualified. And for some unknown reason, the census data shows that Hinsdale no longer qualifies.
Anything else? Thanks, Jody. Teaching and learning.
Madam Chair, you have my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also wanted to let people know that the ELO exhibition that was planned for May 11th, because we looked out to the weather and Dart is saying not looking great, so we moved it to the 23rd. So, and if that date is not good, if the rain looks good, then we just won't be able to have the exhibition, so. I
So
mean, we'll
maybe-
have it in a much smaller way. There'll be no helicopter. on it, so.
I have a question.
Mhm.
For Karen.
Mhm.
So the portrait of a learner, and I might have missed it,
Mhm.
as I was reading through, so, if I did, but. I know we have like, the district planning team and the core planning, whatever. What's the school board participation? Like, is there a school board member on something? or
Yeah,
is
on
there-
everything. They would
Okay.
ask, they would include you in the community stakeholders, the core district planning team. I believe that there's the design team of 40 community stakeholders. I believe they'd ask a board member to be on that.
Okay,
And I know in other districts, and I think you know about Franklin.
I know about
Yeah,
Franklin. yeah, I
who have
know
done-
about Franklin.
I was just would recommend anybody to look at the work that they've done
Oh, it
because
is-
their
it's
work,
amazing,
their
yeah.
district has completely transformed because of this work. So it's been really quite interesting. They ended up having a board committee just to do this work. Like they ended up just much, I think there was a bigger board, but they did have some people, a board committee that did some of the work just as board members. So, and then they also sat on different committees. So yes, you guys would be included in all those pieces.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when was that starting? I think you.
We
said
have to
that.
wait for ESSER to approve,
Okay,
and then that we have the contract already. It's ready to be signed and sent off. As soon as we get the approval back, then I'm anticipating it won't be until June. And we would probably just have an initial meeting in June and then kick it off at the beginning of the school year would make the most sense, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe even have a form in August, but we can work on that as a group.
And that's the ESER 3 money.
It's ESSER 3, yes.
Okay. Anything else? from you? Thank you. Principals report.
So you have my report and any questions, but I just wanted to update you. From the previous board meeting, we had a discussion about banners and diversity club. So I met with the diversity club. And we had done some research with the town of Hinsdale and about putting banners up. And this would be the ultimately last year that we would do something like that. They were concerned about the banners that are totally up there right now, that if they get damaged, because you keep on putting them up and down, that we would be responsible for replacing them. We hadn't budgeted those banners, and the kids were fine. We talked about preferred names and that we could do preferred names for diplomas, as long as we get parental permission. I also met with the seniors just to let them know, and I've heard no feedback, negative or positive, and we were gonna have to try to figure out how to put all those banners up. So right now, we're not doing banners unless the school board gives us a different directive. So that was a biggie, but still, the diversity club, at least from the response I got, we're happy that they could at least have their names on diplomas with their preferred name. We went through Drummond Woodsum to make sure that again was appropriate, and that was, so right now, I think we have one student right now that wants that, and we've got parental permission. So that's good. You also have in the packet, I surveyed students regarding more hands-on, and I'm gonna say career and technical courses, and photography was a really big one, engineering was a big one, photo and film, so we could try to figure out ways to maybe incorporate that. I can't guarantee it yet, but it's a good data point moving forward, if not for this year, for future years. I'm looking that we can give more high interest, and it was 59 kids, but that was only middle high, it was only high school. So that was a decent number, and based on Connor's suggestions from the last one, we did I announced that, here's the reason why we're doing this survey, because there was a lot of questions. And Connor, once again, you give me great advice. So if you want to stay on next year, give me that student voice. I think that's important. So, but I think it's really good data to look at moving it forward in the future. what we can offer students. To have them more engaged and more career ready and things such as that. Like I said, photography, film production, EMT, things like that. I mean, those are high interest, levels for our kids. So, I think that's a great thing. Which was not, this was not in my report, but we have a vapor sensor that we are putting in, the girls and boys bathroom. We're gonna switch it back and forth every 2 weeks. It was a demonstration is that the right word?
We're demoing a product for,
Yeah.
for 30 days.
And so it gives us, if there's vape going on, it gives us actually an email to the assistant principal. And we already had 2 hits today. But the question I have is that we would really like to have a camera, not facing into the bathrooms, but at the corner of the math coming down this slab and going forward toward the cafeteria, because there's a bit of a time lag, not a lot. And I know we've approved cameras indoors and things like that, but before we would do something like that, we want to make sure the board is, in favor of that, or do we just do the sensor right now? And it's not just a vapor sensor, it's an air quality sensor, just happens to pick up vapes. And like I said, 2 today.
Yeah.
So I asked for your suggestions, feedback, or questions.
We approved the cameras,
Mhm.
right? So I mean, the placement of it and would be up to you, placement of them, really.
And again, it wouldn't be, looking into a
Right.
restroom, but it would give us a better, I mean, that's what we're having trouble with. We hear that kids are vaping or kids are doing this and this,
Mhm.
but we can't timestamp it.
Yeah, by the time somebody can maybe look, if they're not.
Right.
Yeah. So it gives us a better idea. So I just ask, I guess, for school board approval to put that camera up.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that makes sense, especially because if you're dealing with a crisis, you can't be like, wait, I have to run and go check on something quickly.
Right.
So then you can look back and you have the proof for parents and students.
And we'll have, 30 days worth of data to be able to present back to you in June. And, moving forward, these aren't inexpensive by any means, but, potentially doable.
Yeah, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a motion, because like
No,
people said,
so
you can
either.
put them wherever you want,
Yeah.
so.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, because Facebook will say, they're pointing cameras in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah, no, it's not gonna be pointing at the bathroom.
no, but Facebook will say.
Yeah, I know, I get it.
Should we let parents know that cameras are going up in the building? I don't know what the protocol
Don't we
is
have,
for that.
don't we have the thing that under surveillance anyway, we have to
Yes.
sign for that, so.
I didn't know if you were supposed to
And we have
notify.
cameras anyway,
Yeah.
inside.
Right, we have cameras all over outside.
Yeah.
And I'll maybe ask Connor. Connor, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What do you think?
So my only question is like, where are the sensors? 'Cause I've heard from other students around just on the internet and such that when other schools put up like vape detectors on the outside, like almost like a metal detector, they got destroyed like almost immediately. So if it's, my only thought would be maybe make sure it's like not super known about, or it's not easily accessed to be destroyed or dismantled.
It's a good,
Yeah.
especially if they're expensive.
Right, yeah.
Well, from what I viewed today, it seems doable, but you're right, that's always a concern.
Yeah.
But again, this is a 30-day, trial. So we'll see how it goes, and we're gonna go 2 weeks in the female bathrooms and then 2 weeks in the male, and kind of, we didn't want to focus on just one gender.
Right. I'd also say keep which bathroom it is under wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
They'll probably find other places. but-
yeah, no, you're perfectly right. And then the last thing, we started New Hampshire SAS testing today. Actually, attendance was fantastic. We only had 4 students, grades 6 through 8, not in school today. Wow. Which to me is pretty incredible.
Any other questions for? That? Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Bobby.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I have Mrs. Sturgis and Ms. Foster here to deliver a presentation on what we've done in the ELA process, so I can answer questions, but I'm gonna invite them to do their presentation, and then you could have questions for the presentation at the end, but if there's any other questions that I could answer now, I will. The one thing I failed to mention, and I thought I had, is that last board meeting, it was discussed moving the board meeting to closer to graduation, which would be an advantage to the curriculum committee to be able to make a final decision. So, Madam Board Chair, I respectfully ask that you consider that after you have a chance to hear the presentation.
Yes. My only other question that's not related to the presentation is, do you know when 5th grade step up is?
Donna, we decided on June 21st, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct. And pray that it doesn't rain
A
on
lot of
field day.
dates in my head.
Any other questions not related to the presentation? All right, you girls are up.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Sturgis, Donna Foster. Thank you for having us here today. I think Maria is just going to pull up the slide deck for you. Do you want to put it in presentation mode, or do you want to just go like that?
No, I do want to do that. I can't remember
What was that?
I think it's a few.
Oh, bottom right, way down at the bottom, the little pick, wait, keep going down. Yep, perfect. I think it was the one you were on,
Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
first.
the first one. Yep, yes.
Or maybe not.
Oh, okay. Oops. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know how to do that much better than I.
Oh, it was gonna be quick. No, go back and click that again. And then it gave you, it gave you an option up top. If you go back and click where you were, and then see what it says, slideshow, resume slideshow.
I think that just lets it like flow on its own.
Right.
See in the top where it says slideshow above the,
If you go right there, right?
no, it's behind the black thing. It's right above the Zoom. See where it says
Oh,
slideshow?
right.
Yeah, and then from beginning.
Maybe you're at me.
No.
You can just click on it on the left-hand side too.
Yeah.
You can go to number 1.
It's doing it on its own, huh?
Okay.
Best laid plans.
Yeah.
Right.
there you go.
Okay, we'll just run it like that. That's great. Okay, next slide. Please. Okay, introductions. Jeannie Sturgis, curriculum coordinator, Donna Foster, 5th grade teacher, member of the ELA curriculum committee this year. So just want to thank you all for having us, and also for making English language arts program a priority in the district. I started in this position in December and was really excited to hear that that was a huge priority. And I feel like you're really kind of at the forefront of where you need to be in K-12 education right now, is really getting aligned to standards and aligned to science of reading. So I think that's, you might want to go back a slide. There we go. So, why is a K-8 ELA curriculum so important, and why is it such a big imperative right now? And I think, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go, but just having a science of reading based curriculum K-8 is really the most important thing right now. It's a big priority across the country, and I'm really glad to see that Hinsdale's right there with it. We want our curriculum to be aligned to the standards, and we want that, K-12 obviously, but as you'll hear, K-8 has an important start there, especially with the foundational reading skills standards. We want it to be comprehensive. We want it to be coherent. You'll hear a little bit more about that when I talk about the importance of a knowledge building curriculum. And of course, we wanted to engage students and foster a love of reading. So if you want to just skip go to the next slide. That's why we're all here, and that's why it's such a big deal. Okay, next slide. So just a little bit about the science of reading. It's really not the latest and greatest. It's not really representative of like new emerging research. What it is really is a convergence of evidence from decades of research. Cross disciplines, it brings in more recent brain science, different languages, different continents, different disciplines from education to brain science to psychology. And really what it does is it kind of puts to rest the debate about how we learn to read, because the evidence is so conclusive and overwhelming. So next slide. Really the science of reading boils down to these 5 big ideas. In the early grades, K2, we focus on phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency really intensely with our foundational skills. And then we reinforce that, extend that, expand it, reinforce it through really the middle level. But these 5 big ideas really are K-12. When you get into the middle school and high school, you're focusing more on vocabulary and comprehension. But as the texts get more complex, fluency also comes into play as well. So these are kind of reiterative, but really the foundational skills that you hear a lot about with the reading wars, which I'll talk about in a minute, are the first ones, and then they expand later on. But those 5 components are really what we mean when we talk about the science of reading. Okay, next slide. So how did we get to where we are right now with this real imperative to get a new curriculum in place? Give you a little history lesson here. You might have heard about the reading wars through the decades. This battle between phonics-based instruction and whole language. And one was, like, just to boil it down and be a little cliched about it, phonics was, boring, structured, whole language, warm and fuzzy. And these 2 schools of thought went to battle for years. But in 2000, the National Reading Panel issued this report that really put the debate to rest and said, we want kids to learn. We want all kids to learn. We need a phonics-based approach. And really what that means is it's systematic and it's structured. And that's what the K2 foundational skills piece is. But the debate continued because the materials and the resources and a lot of the messaging around that was, as I said, it kind of like, who wants to be the bad cop, who wants to be the good cop, right? So balanced literacy emerged, and it was really meant to be like a truce between the two, where we could do it all. Let's just try and create a more balanced approach. And to be honest, Dawn and I were talking about this earlier, that's where I came in from, when I was a classroom teacher for many years, but when I moved into a literacy coach role, it was really just about that balanced literacy approach and trying to do it all. But in that, what the more recent research shows is that phonics really was compromised in that approach. Again, we didn't have the materials we needed, and we didn't have the training and the resources we needed to make phonics instruction engaging for kids and to make it effective in the classroom. So it was compromised. But now the momentum really is towards the science of reading approach. There are new, I mean, you've probably heard about this, but states are passing legislation across the country saying that all students need to be able to access a science of reading based curriculum. It's what the research shows is most effective, so all kids should be able to access that. There's even been some lawsuits to ensure that all kids have access to a science of reading-based curriculum. Publishers are republishing all the programs that we're going to talk about tonight are all science of reading based. They've all been republished within the last 5 or 6 years or so. And New Hampshire's very much on board as well. So the state of New Hampshire launched last year this Leaning into Literacy program. It's not a program, it's an initiative, and they actually funded this fabulous program that some folks in our district, including Donna, are involved in. They funded this letters training, which is the science of reading based training for New Hampshire educators and administrators. Joe is also participating in that, and I think we have a few other folks as well, right?
Yeah, David Fields and Jess Janey are both doing it.
Right. So that's kind of where things are right now. If you wouldn't mind, Maria, going to the next slide. So what does that mean then for the process for adopting an English language arts curriculum? Where we started when I jumped on board for this in December was taking a look at what Ed Reports has for their highest rated programs. So Ed Reports, it's a non-profit, objective, unbiased, whatever, independent organization that produces evaluations, reports on all curriculum programs for science, math, and ELA. And it really is the gold standard for evaluating a curriculum. And it's a really great place to start because what Ed Reports does is it articulates a set of criteria and then standards for each one so that it's really comprehensive and really detailed. But it literally boils down to these 5 bullets. So if you're looking for a K2 foundational skills program, they're going to have a whole bunch of indicators related to its alignment to standards, whether it's research-based, and whether the materials are user-friendly and comprehensive and able to be implemented well. And likewise on the K-8 side, if you're not just looking at those foundational skills, the phonics, based program, but you're looking at the whole of ELA, reading, writing, speaking and listening, language, vocabulary, all of that, then they have a set of criteria that they use related to the bullets on the right. And it's a incredibly helpful guide. So when we started our program, we said, we're not going to look at any materials unless they meet the highest standard in Ed Reports, which means they're going to be all green. They're going to get the highest rating for all of the criteria. So in order for us to find a program that was K-8 that had foundational skills included, there were essentially 4 programs that we started looking at. I do not want to go to the next slide at this point. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Yep, that's perfect. So at this point, I'm going to actually pass it over to Donna, give myself a little break, and she's going to talk to us about, that's where I came in and said, let's start this process by looking at the highest rated programs in Ed Reports that meet our criteria of K-8 foundational skills. And Donna's going to take us from on this slide.
So this slide talks a little bit about the background of how we got where we are now. We had started this process back in 2020, right before COVID came along. So it got put on hold a little bit. We did do some work last year with the Keys to Literacy people, drilling down on what types of testing we had done, where we were on different things. And then this year when Jean came on board, we revisited. We looked at using Ed Reports. We went up to 4, like she said, and then we started looking at the local priorities, which we had established back in 2020, brought it up to date, added things that we felt were more current, including the science of reading, which is more of a buzzword now than it was then, and looked at all of that. Jean brought in, I'm going to get the name wrong, a process at which to look at everything where we weren't making,
Oh, yeah, that's on
value
the next
judge-
slide, don't worry.
that's on the next
Yeah.
slide, okay. That's good, because I can't remember the name of it
I
right
remember
now.
the process though.
So I do remember the
Yes, yeah.
process.
Talk about the structures we use, like the meetings and.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the team was put together. There's one teacher from every grade level. There's a special ed teacher. Mrs. Penfield, our reading person, is on it. So it's been across, and Jillian from the middle school has been on it with us. We've looked at the 4 programs. We looked at what the students were learning. We looked at what we would see, everything we could going through. It's been very rigorous. We meet with our regular PLCs, like we have literally twice a month. Our after school meetings are all ELA. We're meeting, we're working on things. What we do, we've had professional days where the team that was going to be piloting, and we'll back up a second. The committee met and we spent days just looking at all the materials, like 2 full days back in February, I think it was. And then we've had training days as we've narrowed them down. Every time we do something like that, we come back and we're meeting with the rest of the group. We're collaborating with each other. They're getting to look at the materials. Any training we had from the other companies, it was recorded so that they could also have access to that. Jean has set up so many folders in Teams with all the materials in it that I think she does it in her sleep now. But it's all useful things that we can all access and look at. And every step of the way, we've been working together to try to look at it. It's been very fast paced, but we've learned a lot from it. We've done a lot of surveys between each other. We've talked about different things. And she's going to talk about the process when we narrowed it down to the 2 that we're piloting right now, how we got to that point. But
Yeah. So Maria, that's great. That's the slide we're on right now. So thank you, Donna. Yeah, so after the process of getting from the 4 programs to the 2 programs, if we knew that they all were based on aligned to the standard and they were all science of reading based, well, then we needed a more finer criteria or lens for looking at the programs. And so that's where the local priorities really came in helpful. And so what it allowed us to do was kind of make further determinations about what might be a best fit here at Hinsdale using that set of local priorities. And we basically use, it's really like kind of a 3-step process. The first step was really just what I call a descriptive review, and
it takes a while to get used to.
it takes a while to get used to because it's
I
not
noticed.
evaluative. It was really, really important. These programs are so comprehensive and they're so detailed. There's so many moving parts that we needed to not go in with any bias about what program we thought was going to be better. We needed not to be swayed by how pretty it was, but we needed to take some time to just describe and notice things about the program and familiarize ourselves with the program. You'd be surprised how hard that is because they're really robust. So that's part of the process that Donna was describing. So we did this. How does it work? What does it look like? What do we notice about the programs? And tried to get a very full view of all of it and just, some understanding of it too. And from there, then we moved into more of an evaluative phase where we were trying to evaluate the strengths and limitations of the programs. And where did we see our local priorities most evident? Where did we see our local priorities in more limited ways, or where there might have been a gap for that? And then to kind of weigh those, like not every program is going to meet every criterion. So what's most important to us? We were able to have some conversations about that. And then we did a quantitative survey. We basically asked people to rank order with some problems in survey. we did get there. But we basically asked the full faculty for their input on which 2 programs they wanted to pilot after having that process. And I just want to reemphasize what Donna said about the committee did a ton of work and they met a lot and continuing to meet, but we also used all of our meeting time so that the full faculty also. So it was really great to be able to get everybody's input on that as well, to be able to have a survey that went to everybody, and the committee didn't feel the full weight of that decision themselves. So after that, that's how we got to the 2 programs. And those are the 2 programs that we're now piloting this spring. We're doing like a 3 to 4 week pilot of each of the 2 programs to get a feel for what it's like. The programs are really comprehensive, and it takes a year or 2 to even get to efficacy with the programs, for teachers to, fully implement the program. So the expectation isn't that that's, going to happen in the pilot. The expectation is that you'll get a feel for it. You'll get a sense of the breadth of it, how it operates, what the routines are like, and how it feels to interact with students, with the materials. I think we're ready for the next slide.
Sorry.
You know what, maybe on your keyboard, if you hit the down arrow, maybe that'll just get us. Nope.
They have it in front of them.
That's true.
There we go, sorry about that.
There we go. Okay. So at this point in the process, we now have 2 groups of teachers involved in this process. We have the pilot team, which is virtually every classroom teacher in the building except a few, because we were able to open it up to every teacher to pilot, and super good sports because we didn't have subs for everybody to get the orientation and the training, but everybody wanted to jump in. So thanks to the committee and the folks who attended the training, share out the learning, everybody jumped on board with the pilot. But then, so we tried to delineate the roles a little bit. We made sure that the pilot team was clear what they were responsible for and what the adoption committee, which is that ongoing committee that has been in place since January, what they're responsible for. And they're really the decision-making body and responsible for communication among the faculty. All right, I think we're ready for the next one. So at the end, we're now in June, and we're just finishing up our 2 pilots of the 2 programs. The teachers are completing surveys of each of the programs. There's student surveys for each of the programs, and then the committee will be meeting to review that data and make a final determination about which program we would adopt. The decision-making process, and actually this whole process is actually articulated really well in Ed Reports. They have some recommendations for how to conduct a curriculum adoption process. So that's the process we've been following. And one of the guidances that they offer is about decision-making. So they do recommend that we use qualitative and quantitative data, and that we initially try to seek consensus around a program. But if no consensus is attainable, then the committee would have a vote. And if the vote is super close, then admin would step in to help make that final decision. So that's the process that's outlined in Ed Reports, and I think it's a good process. And then we'll make a middle school decision and an elementary school decision from the 2. So I know that, coming in, you could close the comments. I think it's just above. Great. Okay. So I know one of the priorities in the district is ensuring K-8 coherence, and which is why we thought bringing in curriculum program was really important, because when you have an articulated program, you do gain a great deal when it comes to coherence. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what we mean by coherence and how we hope to achieve or expect to achieve it. So one of the things that you get when you have a K-8 program is vertical alignment of the standards. So regardless of which materials we end up adopting K5 and 6-8, we'll still gain that coherence through the vertical alignment of the standards because the standards are articulated by grade level. The other way that we'll gain coherence K5 and 6-8 is through the spiraling knowledge building. And knowledge building is a really key tenet of science of reading based instruction. So the idea is that kids can't think critically about subject matter that they don't have deep knowledge of. And so through vocabulary and through text, kids are developing deep knowledge bases. And that's a really important part of the program. And so what these programs do, K5 and then 6-8, is they spiral that knowledge building up. So some of the themes and topics are revisited within those grade bands. Again, science of reading, the instructional practices and the approaches would all be consistent. And then we would have a systematic and structured foundational skills program, K3, K2, but extending 3-5 as well as needed. And then the other thing that these programs bring is some consistency in the instructional routine. So if you have to spend a lot of time teaching kids the processes, you know, the protocols for discussion or group work or you know, turn and talk, all these things that if you have to spend a lot of time reteaching those every year, you lose learning time. And so when you have a coherent program, you get consistency within those. And we think that we can have that coherence even if K5 adopts one program and 6-8 adopts a different program within the two. So they're all piloting the same two programs, but we think that there's some flexibility there for K5 adopting one and 6-8 adopting another, because we would still have that coherence. So this just reiterates, I think, what I said about how we got where we are. Program selection in June. We'd like teachers to have digital access before they leave in the spring. We would just have to make sure the POs are able to be processed in time. So end of school year, beginning of July, and then take early delivery of the print materials. So anybody who wanted access over the summer could have it. And then we would devote professional development days in August for training and then use our structures through the year for ongoing support. I think that might be it. So thank you. I know that was a lot. Take questions, comments.
So my only concern is, you know, we've been talking a lot about consistency through the grades, and if we adopt two separate programs, K5 and then 6-8, I think that, you know, you were talking about the spiraling of knowledge. The programs aren't going to have the same knowledge throughout, and the systems and turn and talk and all of the things that were created K-5 are then going to change 6-8. So I think trying to get both schools on board would be more effective. So that's just kind of, that's just been a goal for so long, and we haven't done much, you know, to accomplish that. So I feel like this is an opportunity.
Yeah, and I do think we talked a lot about that. And I think one thing that we've learned through this process is that the knowledge building really spirals through the K5 grade band and doesn't continue at 6-8. So it's kind of very different at 6-8. They don't continue that through.
It's a different type.
What's that?
It's a different type.
Yeah,
Building.
yeah, exactly. And again, I think the coherence really comes from the standards and the science of reading based approaches and the knowledge building within the two grade bands. I think the instructional routines is probably the place where the transition from 5 to 6, but consistent instructional routines K5 and then consistent instructional routines 6-8. We'll gain a huge amount in that. And if the decisions are made school-based, I think what you gain from a school-based decision outweighs what you lose in that transition from 5th grade to 6th grade.
And just to add to that, a lot of some of the ones you mentioned even, but between both what I've seen so far, a lot of those instructional routines are similar in both of the programs we're looking at, because they're things, some of them are things we're even doing now. So they're common things that are best practices to use now. So I understand what you're saying, but I personally don't think we would lose that piece in that respect. Depending on how it.
I don't have anything I don't know, but I can give someone else a turn.
We can trade off.
Yep, that works.
So just before I have the question, I was gonna add the same question as Kayla, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's the first question. What are the 2 programs? I know when we've done this before, we were told what the names of like, bridges or blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, so we're looking at EL, expeditionary learning, not expeditionary, it was
It was
expeditionary,
expedition.
EL education. And Savas, which produces K-5, the program's called My View, and 6-8, the program's called My Perspectives. The tricky part about EL is that it's one curriculum published by EL Education, but there are 2 separate publishers that have taken on publishing it and have developed digital platforms for it. So if you were looking at the print materials, you really wouldn't notice much of a difference in the layout, a little bit, but you might notice more of a difference in the digital interfaces between the 2 programs.
Very much so.
What was the EL? What was the name of that again?
Expeditionary learning.
Which they officially changed their name to EL Education, but that's what it was, yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't even have, the EL doesn't really stand for anything anymore. You know what I mean, where it was expeditionary learning, now they're just
Expeditionary
calling it.
learning, EL doesn't
EL?
really, that stands for expeditionary learning.
Okay, so that's what it
Education,
is.
right? It's expeditionary learning education. Or is it
No,
just EL?
it's just EL
Just
Education.
EL.
I guess it doesn't stand for
It
anything.
sounds like where Kentucky Fried Chicken used to be Kentucky, but now it's just
Yes,
KFC.
yes,
Yeah.
sounds like the same thing.
That's a good analogy.
And I actually should have said that. I wear hearing aids and my hearing aids are getting fixed at the moment, so I'm using, I have loaner hearing aids. If you see me like wondering,
That's all.
just not working as well, and I have a Bluetooth mic that I can't use with these, so.
Okay, thank you.
And the other one was called Savas?
From Sabas, it's called My View
Yeah.
at elementary and My Perspectives.
Yeah, and the
at
publisher
middle
is
school.
Savas, SAVVAS.
Yeah, I always spell it wrong when I type it in.
So there's too many B's and too many A's.
Yeah,
I did 1B.
I want 1 A and 2 B's.
I have a question. You said that you have a teacher from each grade involved. Are you finding that these teachers that are going through with these are the ones in the upper grades, are they leaning more towards a different program than the elementary school teachers that you're working with?
Everybody's trying to be very objective.
Yeah,
I think,
I wasn't sure if you'd heard the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really, because we're still piloting, so, I think everybody's trying to keep an open mind and look and compare what they can and look at everything as they can, as objectively as we can.
so I will say that I know that the middle school started using EL this year. And
Actually,
Last year.
they started using it when we were in remote because
Oh, right.
Kylie and William had it with Jillian that year.
But they really engaged in it last
Yeah,
year.
last year it got
Yeah.
big, yeah,
that's what I meant last year.
yeah.
And so I think, and they loved it, like they came in saying like, we really like this program and we're open to changing if we need to change. So they are piloting both programs and, they're doing surveys at the end of the first pilot before they start the second pilot. So I've just asked people to really make sure that you do the survey on the one program and then before you start the second program. So people will do that. And I think people are being, as objective and open as they, being professional about it.
Kendra, I would just also add that I think the process that Jeannie put them all through really, and Donna, you can add to this, I think they've been through this process of being objective from the very beginning. So, I mean, that's sort of how this process works, is not coming in with any bias, but really noticing. And it was really hard at first, but
Mhm.
now when they're really hard at first, and now when they're in meetings and I hear them using that word like, oh, I'm noticing. And even when I have the opportunity to say, no, I see, they're still saying I'm noticing. I think that it's been a really great process, so that nobody is leaning into one thing really heavily yet. They're really taking it all in and given each program its time and its due diligence.
And I could just echo that, the middle school staff, I've been on 1 or 2 meetings and reviewing the curriculum, and they're very open
Yeah.
and critical also in a good way of looking at the curriculum, what works best for, our students, so.
Anybody else?
I wanted to ask too about, does either program have like a component for special education or the tiers, for
That's a
someone
great
struggling,
question.
or to push students further who are doing well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think both of these programs do have tiered supports. They both have like supplemental materials and supplemental programs, but they also have a lot of supports embedded in the curriculum. So I think one of the things that I noticed about both of them is that as a teacher, as you're going through a lesson, you will have guides on the side that tell you, for students who are struggling, for students who are right on target, for students who are ready for the next challenge. It's like in the moment, how you can respond to what you're seeing. So I think that's really great. And I think the tiered supports are both like what you can do to support what's going on in class, but then they also have tier 2 and tier 3 supports.
Fantastic.
The only other thing is, because I was just, and I could be totally wrong about my thinking, but because I'm just reading a lot of different stuff, I'm involved in different school board association stuff and all different things, and I've seen the science reading come up, people talking about that like tons, and stuff, but but I've also, when people are talking about different programs they're looking at, or this school's doing that program, that school's doing that program, there's the whole big controversial stories and resources and stuff, you know what I mean, do we have any sense of any of that, you know what I mean, like in either of these, just because that stuff pops up.
Yeah, so I think there's been criticism on both sides of both programs. So I think on the one hand, I think you hear criticism of EL being, teaching critical race theory. On the other hand, you hear there's criticism of Savas, kind of whitewashing history and being kind of like ahistorical and not inclusive enough. And so I personally think both of them do a good job of being neither of those things. So I personally think that there's going to be critics on both sides, no matter what program we take. I don't think either one of them is egregious in either direction.
Just because we've
And
been.
I think it's just going to get, it's just a very heightened sensitivity
Yeah.
that we all have.
And I would just add that we're gonna have to be mindful of that, I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna, EL curriculum adoption or not, I think in general, we just have to be mindful of that, because
Yeah.
it's there, right? It's everywhere, so.
Exactly, we're
Yeah.
pretty lucky here, aside from that one incident with the SEL thing
Yeah.
a couple years ago, but we've been pretty lucky that but there's districts not too far from us where that is a big, big thing that school boards are dealing with, so. My only other comment too, when you started out about phonics is, because I've been on the board a long time, so we've been seeing that whole like phonics, touchy-feely, you guys were talking about the melding of it or whatever, however you said, warm and fuzzy. And I went to school, late 70s through the 80s, so like it was phonics and like the foundational thing with reading, math, I'm taking in music, like if you don't learn how to read music, you're not going to be able to learn how to play an instrument, or math, you can't do anything. So I just kind of like that. I'm not a teacher, but I just kind of like that, the foundational phonics thing, I kind of like that, because I've noticed that over the years, how, like you said, it kind of melded, and went the touchy, the warm and fuzzy was given kind of more credence, and then but you don't have the foundation as much, so I like that. That's all I have.
I think you guys did a really great job with your presentation.
Yeah.
You had a lot of information.
Put it together.
Thank
And
you.
that has been a ton of work, so,
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
yeah, you guys teaching and doing all this, kudos. I don't know how you're teaching, but that's
Yeah,
impressive.
I really appreciate your saying, and I think it's even teacher appreciation day.
Oh, that's right.
But honestly, to pilot programs midstream while you're, it's an incredibly heavy lift and also, right?
It's been interesting.
Yeah.
And then throw testing in the middle of it.
Yeah. I know one time we ran here for a meeting during the week at one point, and it was just like stacks and stacks of all
That
your
was when you were
stuff.
in the- one-
Oh, yeah.
It was like
All the
crazy,
stuff.
yeah.
Yes, thank you for all your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're good? Thank you very much. Our next report is technology.
Madam Chair, you have my report. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have one thing about the dashboard. First box seems to be tiered by amount and not by month. And so looking at it is, for me, is confusing. I'd rather see it by month than tiered by amount. So I can see like, oh, obviously I can see that, whatever month is at the beginning is the highest month that there's been more incidents, but I'd like to see it like up and down throughout the year. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the problem we run into, that's fine. I can organize it by month. It goes by calendar year.
Yeah.
So it's gonna toss the September through December still
At the beginning, which is fine.
at the beginning, and
Yeah.
then January's gonna fall in the middle. but
Yeah,
I
which
can
is
do that.
fine.
Okay.
All the other boxes are tiered that way by month.
Yep.
So. And I did like that you can just click on a specific month and it gives you all that data for that month and the other boxes, which I thought was really cool. I don't know if everybody else saw that, but yeah, it was, very good job. Thanks for all the hard work. I appreciate it. But that was my only thought process, first box. It could go. Great. Anybody have anything else? I kind of agree with you. Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, just it like catches your eye, or you see it, I don't know, you see it better if it would go that way, just because it's the school
Right.
year, yeah.
Thank you, Justin. New board business. We don't have it really good. So school board initiative. So first up. We sent out our initiative to the district. There been any feedback?
Really, I haven't heard much feedback. I did meet with the teacher leadership group just recently. And there's a whole lot going on. So I don't know if that's the place to start. I initially thought that might be a good place to start. But I'm trying to coordinate my communications with the staff, kind of aligned with the initiative as well. So I think we have to talk about how we want to get this started. How do we want to meet with the faculty? As a group, as individual board members, as a particular, subgroup of the board, to really do a couple of stand-up meetings and talk about the importance of that initiative.
I think the work Karen is about to do kind of lends itself to this initiative. So maybe instead of adding more meetings, we see if that can encompass this initiative.
And there'll be a board member involved in it.
Right, so we'll be right in it.
Yeah, and I did write that in my report that it would be nice if we could combine the two.
Yeah.
for no other reason, although there's many reasons, but for no other reason than I don't, capacity wise, we're gonna be inviting a lot of people to be part of this
Right.
initiative. And if there's another initiative, it feels it could get a little messy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we don't want.
Right.
So, and I did talk to New Hampshire Learning Initiative about your initiative and asked if they thought they could align the two, and they felt like, and that's when they told me to talk to Franklin. That's exactly what happened.
Right.
And typically the outcomes that come from the portrait of a learner work is exactly the outcomes that schools are looking for climate and culture change. So, and they felt like it naturally comes from that. They felt very strongly that they could work with us on that. And that again, we would make sure that you guys are part of initial meetings with us, so you could talk about your thoughts and insight. And so I think that makes perfect sense and doesn't muddy the waters and doesn't put another extra thing in meetings for people to be at.
And it's like the same
It
thing,
is the
so
same,
why do the same
right?
thing
Right,
twice?
it is the same.
I mostly agree with that. My only thought was that this whole culture and kindness initiative came from legal out of some other issues, and it was really, get on it, da, 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 da. So I don't want it to get, I would give it in with portrait of a learner, and that doesn't get cranking up until the fall. And not that we're gonna do a whole lot with this even before the end of the year, if it's May already, but like, it came out of some other larger problems that legal was like, you guys need to get on this.
Yeah, so
So I just don't want it to stall and be like totally thrown by the wayside-ish, that focus. To go with just on with portrait of a learner,
so
but I mostly agree.
I think that what we can do, I hope, is that ESSER has been being turned around relatively quickly. I mean, that's how it's been. Who knows? Now that I said that, it'll probably be 3 months before I let you know. But if that gets turned around quick enough, we could do a kickoff with it with NHLI. So that we're addressing both things relative sooner than later. It might not, we might get into the deep work until later, but at least
But
the
it'll
kickoff
keep it
to end the year,
in the
so to say,
forefront of,
yeah,
you
that
know,
we're
like a-
moving forward with it.
Yeah, like a constant, and I know we had talked before about the behavior support committee playing a role too, but that may be pulling in too many different
Mm.
groups.
Well, maybe
but-
people on those committees would sit on
A lot
some
of those
deep.
people are gonna be on that, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, it is our goal to reach the people the furthest voices out there, to bring them in, the furthest from opportunity, the furthest voices, the voices that, and the loudest voices. So, and everybody in between. And I think, I did talk to Franklin, and they said that it was by 3 months in, they had a lot of groups coming. So, I can talk to them, and hopefully if we can do a kickoff maybe in June.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
includes.
Yeah, this was, so just wanted to be like, because that's where it came from,
Mhm.
and it just, I think I like that idea, you said, being in the forefront, then like, so we're just in the drop till the fall.
Yes,
and then-
absolutely.
And Tim Dow at Franklin, their chair, I don't know if you've met him.
Yeah, I haven't met him, but he's on names of
He's
all the, yeah,
everything, he's Mr. Franklin,
yeah.
so yeah, he's great,
Right,
so
okay.
yeah.
And we did talk about some of that in behavior support and PD, and so I think it's gonna naturally happen. So I think rather than calling it its own initiative, it's
Yeah.
just kind of at the forefront of decisions we're making
exactly.
going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's at the forefront, like, has to be at the forefront, yeah. I have one question though, and I was gonna ask this during John's report, and I forgot, but it fits right in here. We had talked, I think, in January, or before, like in December, about doing a staff climate and culture survey along with the student one, and we said, okay, let's do the student one first, and once that's all done, let's do the staff, so. I don't want that to fall out and also be incorporated into this, so I remember we talked about, we wanted 2 distinct surveys. of
Yeah,
this
so
back-
Joe and I are working on that. Deciphering what questions we feel are appropriate based on the Department of Ed.
Okay, cool.
And we actually just had a brief meeting this afternoon. We were supposed to have more information, so definitely for the next board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 15 pages on the Department of Ed, United States
you don't
Department of
wanna
Ed one,
ask
so
that stuff.
we want
Right,
to try
and
and
some of it's just
focus it in on
demographics.
some of the things that are similar to what the student survey
Yeah,
was saying, so I have apples to apples, so to speak.
great, thank you.
All right. Are we good to move on? Okay, very good. Travel club request. They came last month and we
We approved
approved the Puerto Rico trip.
Yeah,
They just
they had
had
no
one.
information for us.
Yeah.
Except for Puerto Rico and May first. Yeah.
Do we know how many kids are?
Right now, approximately 35,
Wow. It's only this.
which is great. Yeah, it's on the
I'm
forum.
like, wonder where. There it is.
They had a parent informational meeting on April 26th, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My son's about.
Oh, it's a great opportunity to have that many students.
Yeah, and I think she was saying they have maybe just as many chaperones.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
like
we're way up
15,
there.
Like 2 to 1.
Yeah,
It's April vacation, so that's fine.
I know my son and my daughter is gonna be a chaperone, so. Yeah,
But anyway, we needed to do an official field trip request.
okay.
No, we approved
We approved it last month.
Right, but I think you just, you requested that we have the
Yeah, information.
actual, yeah.
So we don't.
So we don't really need a motion to accept it again, right? Because we've already accepted it,
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
right?
Yep, right.
Seems
So we're good. Thanks for the information.
Yeah.
We need a motion for the next one though. There's over 101 else. By 7.
Oh, the Salem, yeah, okay. All right, so I need a motion to accept the Salem Witch Museum trip.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Do you have any information more than what's in here?
Well, yeah, they're going to the Salem Witch Museum, other historical sites there with the life skills students. And we're trying to get them out more and have more experiences. And it relates to some of the novels that they've been reading. So it's a good connection with the curriculum.
Yeah.
And the one we had in the fall was great when they went down to Connecticut to Mystic Museum. So we're trying to get those students out and have more, experiences. So it's great. And Christina Wallace is doing an awesome job.
And you feel like 5 adults is sufficient?
Yep.
So-
Yeah, we have some of the paras that are going there and things like that. So yes, it'll work.
All right, so everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Right, passes. Oh, thanks. All right, and donation.
Is that an extra piece of paper?
It was the one that we got it today.
Okay, I was gonna say, I did not see anything about donations.
Are in the back.
So there's 3 donations that we need to approve that are over $500. Going towards an all-school assembly next week. I believe. The first one, so we're gonna do them individually.
Yes.
Where is it?
It's
It
a
was in the-
separate paper.
Yeah.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
I got a copy for you too.
Somebody's got it.
We had a lot of paper.
I think it was- Everything at the end.
All right, thank you.
All right. So the first one I need a motion for is the 2K3 standing stream specialist for $1,000.
It's standing seam.
Oh,
It's like they're
this-
roofers, yeah. Oh,
It
yeah.
says stream.
Oh, what is it? So it's okay.
It says steam, you said stream, but it's actually.
Steam.
Yeah, I
Okay.
Googled it, 'cause I'm like, what's standing seam? And it's like, oh no, it's steam, the roofers. I'll make the motion to accept
Standing seam.
the 1,000, that, it needs to be in the minutes, Maria.
Yeah.
Your amount, name of it, and yeah, the 2K3 standing seam specialist for $1,000. I'll make that motion to accept that.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It stands. The next one is from the PTA for $1,000. Need a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to accept the $1,000 from the PTA.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. And then the PTSA for $1,000.
I'll make that motion.
No, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Generate comboing.
No, we only have to approve anything
Oh,
501 or over.
oh, okay, cool.
So just the three.
So, Madam Chair, I'd just like to you know, recognize, Erica
Yes.
Killey for putting this on. It was a short notice. I apologize for the late notice, but it kind of fit well with the school board's directive of kindness. They've been here before, chaos and kindness, and they've been in public schools in New Hampshire and or all over for a long time. So it's great, and it was a short notice because they only had like 2 dates available. So we welcome anybody that wants to come. It's gonna be 1 o'clock. Now that we've got it approved on Monday. And the elementary school, so it's everybody, it's a district-wide
Yeah.
thing, so it should be great for the kids.
Are they going to both schools or they?
They're gonna be all at
It
the,
says on the
I know,
thing.
I just wanted to clear.
yeah, now,
So I'm
so
asking.
we'll have the elementary school kids on the floor or some seats in there. High school, middle school, and the bleachers, so.
That's awesome.
And they're great.
Erica pulled this off while her daughter broke her collarbone, so Erica is like absolutely amazing
Yeah.
getting this.
Yeah. Oh, she did,
Yeah.
she on there, I don't wanna say anything bad.
Yeah.
No, she did, she
$1,000 is
she
a
pulled this
best
together like,
That's impressive.
Yeah, she did great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll send out thank you notes.
thank you, yes.
To these donors,
Perfect.
the folks who donated $500 or less, which, I took care of. And then the larger donations as well, so it is, yeah, I just want to echo what John said. It's amazing that the community has really gotten behind this, and I hope it indicates good things for the future.
I mean, it's like the third time, so we're well, like, versed in them, so it's a good,
It's
yeah.
gonna be my first time.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
I think we should.
I may
add-
just show up Monday.
We should add Erica to the list of thank yous too, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was. All right. Superintendent search, most of our discussion will be in public.
Yeah, I've been, April's request dealing, working with that, working with Barrett, when I got, as you saw that stuff for you.
Yes.
that's just fast.
That's good. All right, school district moderator and clerk vacancies, we have vacancies for both. I know we put it something, didn't we put it in the paper? Yes. We put that in the paper,
I'm sorry.
that we had the vacancies for
For
the.
the moderator.
We did.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
was gonna say we approved.
Yeah, sorry. I know we posted on community connections.
That's good.
I tried to twist a couple people's arms and I haven't been successful yet, so I'm gonna wait.
So hopefully we can find somebody. Policy first reading for electronic communication devices.
Say, don't everybody from the policy.
Where is it? I'm looking for it. Okay.
So
I'm joking because I'm on that. so.
my question is, so it talks about what the policy is, what is going to happen punishment wise?
That was my first question, so yeah.
And I was like, so how is gonna happen?
This is, policy is the why of what we do, and then the discipline is something that the administration follows through on. That would, the discipline would be located within the student handbook.
Right,
Um,
and we don't have anything in there specifically for that, I don't believe.
Not,
well,
not.
we
Well,
do.
We do,
Do?
Yeah.
but you'll have to approve the new handbook before the next
And the
school
new,
year.
and the new, code of conduct, which Drummond Woods was working on, I know. And so we had a lengthy discussion about this in the policy committee meeting, so until but this needs 2 readings, so the current policy, you know, the one that we amended a couple times this fall and early winter, will stay in place through the end of the school year, because this needs to have a 2nd reading in June, and then by then the code of conduct will be done, the handbook will be all updated, and we'll look and approve that. If not, we will then, you're right, if not, if the code of conduct is not done, then we talked about making sure we have a pullout
Yeah.
consequence, you know, not consequence, but you know, for the cell phone, the electronic devices policy. Ready to go.
Could we wait and have the second reading be in August? It would still be before school started.
Well, I mean, my opinion is I'd rather do it in June in case then we could even have another reading, since this is such a hot button, you know, who knows if we want to work some stuff and what Drummond with some, I don't know.
I think we can hash out the consequences. I think as long as we get the language correct with the electronic communication devices policy itself, I think we will have accomplished a lot. I mean, we really worked hard on it. Connor helped a lot
Connor's been
with this
invaluable.
piece. You know, and got student leadership involved initially. So I think this reflects, the policy reflects the wishes and the needs of the student body, as well as the board and administration. I think that's why it took so long, you know, to get it done. But I think it's a good, solid policy, which is developmental approach, an approach, you know, elementary, middle, high school level. So I feel good about the work that the policy committee has done on this piece. So I guess you have any questions or clarification that you need on the language itself, you know, and then we'll deal with the consequence later.
And I did have a question about language too. So is this saying for high school students, they cannot use devices on school sponsored transportation? It is the big paragraph at the bottom, second to last, technically. On the first page.
Oh, first.
I think it says that they can, it says or.
But then when you read is not in use for an authorized educational purpose, so then it sounds like if they're not using it for school, they can't be using it. But that's why I wasn't sure
High
what,
school students shall keep personal communication devices out of sight, silent or powered down during the school day other than authorized periods, or on school-sponsored transportation.
but then it says when the device is not in use for an authorized educational purpose.
Yeah,
So that makes it sound like it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, this, the way that reads.
Yep,
it-
I get
It,
that.
it says about powered down on school transportation unless used for an educational purpose. And we went around and around and around and around so
Yeah,
much
I
about
don't-
that one,
I
so
don't
I
agree
can
with
see
that.
where,
It's about,
yeah, we might have missed
Yeah.
the whole, do you guys agree with that?
Well, yeah, because we had a lot of discussion
A
about
lot of
that, so
discussion about
they're
that.
coming back from a sports event.
Yeah.
And they wanna call their parents, hey, I'm getting picked up.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Or even-
legitimate.
Even 3 hours on a
Oh,
bus
that's
ride,
nice, yeah.
I don't think,
I mean,
I think it's unreasonable to not have them.
I
On
mean,
a device.
and of course, it would play into, if they had the device on the bus, you know, using it ethically, respectfully, blah, 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 and the bus driver would kind of.
Well, the coaches are there
Yeah.
too, so I think that would fall on the coaches.
Because I know we talked about not wanting the bus driver to have police stuff.
Right,
They're
right.
But the
missing out.
coach, that would be on the
Yeah.
coaches.
Yeah, so I think maybe in the going around and around, 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 you know what I mean, that sentence got a bit unclear, and maybe we all, you know how it goes, and we just didn't
Yeah,
catch it, so maybe for next month, you know, we can circulate it amongst ourselves and clean it up.
So are you saying that it was the intent in here that they are allowed to use it on the bus, or they're not?
they are not allowed to.
No, but the intent was for them to be able to use it on a bus. Specifically, my son's at a sporting event,
Right,
right, and is coming home late. I'd want them to call me
Yeah.
if I didn't go to the event,
Right.
that I could pick them up, you know. Hey, mom, dad, we're
Right,
15
that's-
minutes from school.
right.
So, but we went around and around on that.
And like you said, you're on the bus for 2 hours. Are we saying they're not allowed to have their phone and do whatever on their phone?
Right.
And no, that wasn't the intent. Of course, But if they're using it, they need to use it responsibly and
Right,
legally,
right,
because we know we've
right.
seen some instances where kids haven't done that on the buses.
Maybe it needs to be two
So,
separate sentences.
Yeah, so I think that sentence just didn't get.
So maybe educational purposes, or, I don't know, we'll
Yeah.
have to discuss it.
I would say, I mean, it says in here that the ways they are and are not allowed to use them, so I feel like that's already
It would apply.
explicitly stated.
Exactly, yeah, and that was I think our intent was that they could use them, but they have to use them the way they're supposed to use them, like not do all that other stuff.
Right.
We have a meeting on Monday.
We do,
We do.
okay,
Don't we?
I'll be
Yeah.
there.
I have an.
Maria, Do I have a meeting on Monday?
No.
Like,
All right, perfect. Connor, do we have a meeting on Monday? Connor says no.
I don't know, where am I supposed to be on Monday?
Well, I have a policy committee meeting on Monday.
All right, well, I
That's
do
fine,
too.
we can do that.
I do too then.
And that's my boss. But,
Yeah, so we can clean that.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you put a period after transportation, then I think it clearly says, other than during authorized periods or on school sponsored transportation.
Mhm.
That makes more sense.
Other than that, this, I think we've done a pretty good job on this piece and we'll look at it again. And come back for the second reading.
Sorry. I have a question here about
Oh.
phones. Why would we not want them to be on their phones sitting there quietly playing Wordle or whatever on a bus where they're not?
We do,
Conversing and
no,
arguing
we
with each
do,
other.
it was a mistake, well, we didn't clean that up from the original draft, so we do, they just have to not use it unethically.
Inappropriately.
blah, 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 Inappropriately, no, we
Yeah.
do, yeah, that's what we're gonna be fixing.
You had a lot of wording there while you were speaking that we're going around in circles.
That was,
At first I thought it was no, but it's.
that was our intention.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so, yeah, that was our.
All right, so we need a motion, if there's no more questions, we need a motion to accept the first reading of this.
I'll make
JICJ.
I'll make motion.
Are we saying, like, knowing it will be?
It's only a first reading.
Yeah, it's just a first
so
reading,
Just
so
have to
there's
do a
always-
first reading, yeah.
Okay.
You'll come back with it edited for the final. I need a second.
Oh, okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So.
No, and I didn't have anything to say.
Presentation of the NHSBA Student Board Representative Scholarship.
Okay, so I have a thing to read, so I'll stay here to read that so that the Zoom people can hear me and then have a presentation and if you could take a picture, so I can send it to
sure.
Gareth, then.
We can post on.
Right, so the New Hampshire School Boards Association is proud to offer a yearly scholarship program designed to encourage, support, and recognize students who have served as a school board representative during their high school tenure and whose school board is a current member of NHSBA. NHSBA provides 5 of these student scholarship awards of $2,000 each in each of the 5 statewide regions. Factors considered for award winners are academic achievement, active participation in school-sponsored and extracurricular activities, community service activities, and an essay on the topic of the role of student voice in school board decision-making. On behalf of the NHSBA, I am pleased to announce that the winner of the 2023 NHSBA Student Representative Scholarship for the Southwest Region is Hinsdale High School senior Connor Sangler. Connor's academic achievements are numerous. Connor is a member of the National Honor Society. He has also won numerous awards, including the National College Board Rural and Small Town Recognition Award, the Outstanding Student in Science Award, the Brown Book Award, and the Renaissance Award. In addition to being an excellent student, Connor has also engaged in numerous extracurricular and community-based activities. While at Hinsdale High School, Connor has played soccer, track and field, was a member of the chess club, and was a student representative. Connor's references describe him as a young man who is sharp, analytical, and has the mindset of a lifelong learner. Further, his work as a student school board representative has been conducted with seriousness and professionalism. It is clear that Connor is a young man of many accomplishments, is a wonderful representative of Hinsdale and Hinsdale High School, and has a bright future ahead of him. So the NHSBA is pleased to congratulate Connor and provide him with this scholarship. And a thing.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna get out of the way. I was trying to bail.
Video. Sorry. Yay. I would just like to say that Connor's been invaluable on the school board this year. I have really appreciated all the information he's given, and the student input part of it has been phenomenal.
Thank you. You're gonna have big shoes with them.
I know.
It's true.
Yes.
That's true.
Someone's got a lot to live up to.
You're gonna have to give us a recommendation.
Well, if John has his way, Connor will be.
Right.
So Connor, do you have anything for us this
Um, no students have come forward with any proposals or such. As for the goings about of students, nothing too out of the ordinary this month. Trying to think. Wasn't here for much of April due to personal stuff, but, yeah.
Everybody's looking forward to June.
Yeah. Counting lots of people counting the days down.
Yeah.
For regular school, it's 51.
Thank you, Connor. And other business for him. Quite a few things, I think. Do you want to start with the library?
Yep. So, and you guys had this, in your stack of papers when you got here that was, I received this, not time to get on the agenda, but I emailed April and Kim, about it. So I received a letter and I saw Melissa on there, so I don't know if that is Melissa Smith or not. Maybe.
It is.
Hi, Melissa. So, I'll let you speak in a second. I just want to introduce it. So I have received a letter from Melissa Smith. Many of you know Melissa. Many of you have taught Melissa, and her siblings. So Melissa, is a Hinsdale alumni, 2005, 4, something like that, Melissa? 5 or 6.
2005, yes.
5, all right. And her grandmother, her late grandmother, Doris B. Smith, affectionately known by everybody as DBS. Donna's like, yep, DBS. Taught in Hinsdale for 40 years, from the 50s or prior to she's actually from 40s to like 1981. I think she retired. She was in addition to being a teacher, like she civics and some other things. And she was actually Hinsdale's when libraries were mandated by the federal government in the late 50s. She became Hinsdale's first librarian, having the library in her classroom, like in the corner of her classroom, when the high school was downtown. And then when the current high school is built, she became the librarian. The select board, even when she retired in June of 81, declared Doris B. Smith Day, and we gave her a plaque, in honor of all of her dedication to the students and to the town. So Melissa has sent me a letter that you guys have just requesting, dedicating the library, and then the Hinsdale High School Library in her grandmother's name. I attached I included the policy for this. Basically, it's just a letter, write a letter. And, she fits all the criteria, and the board would vote, and, we could have a little kind of a ceremony, a little reception, maybe a plaque. I'm not sure who all decides on that, but and I would leave it up to Melissa and her family. Just from what I talked to Melissa, maybe in July, her parents are going to be in the area. They live in Florida right now, but they're long-term Hinsdalians. Her dad was on the select board forever, so I think I captured it all, Melissa, but whatever you want to add, please feel free.
Yeah, I think that captures a lot of it. I do have the plate that my grandmother was given when she retired. And if
good, I
it's
forgot about that.
acceptable, I would get a shadow box and would like that and a picture of her to hang with the dedication plaque in the library. And then if it's not needed, have it returned either to myself or someone in my family.
I'm sorry, Melissa, I totally forgot about the plate part. That's so much better.
That's okay. That's okay.
44 years, that's impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donna, you're shaking your head when I.
She was one of the best teachers I ever experienced in school.
Oh, awesome.
Sweet lady.
Yeah. So any questions? I think we just, need a motion, and the logistics of, I'm not sure who Melissa could talk to with the logistics of having a ceremony. I mean,
She can talk to me.
okay, cool. So I'll put you in touch with our interim superintendent, Kim. Then Melissa, I'll give him your info, and give you his info, and you guys can work out, and we can, if we could maybe get like a date nailed down, I think, whomever, I don't know if it's you, Melissa, that's gonna give out, we give out a scholarship, in
Yes.
his name, so it maybe would be neat at class day or graduation, whatever, if to mention that, hey, there's gonna be this dedication.
Okay.
And then a lot of people would hear it there, we can publicize it.
Yep.
Yep, I'll be coming down for class day to give out Graham's scholarship this year.
Awesome.
I'll make a motion to accept the dedication of our library to Doris B. Smith.
Second. Any discussion? I would suggest we have a plaque along
In
with her.
addition to-
Yeah, that's my,
Yeah, it could like kind of name it.
right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like out front where the
Right.
gym is the Robin Beauregard and it's the
Yeah.
plaque, so similar, and then we can also have the shadow box and the
Right.
picture and the plate, okay, yeah.
Could it also have like some information about
Like a
Miss
write-up.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
that'd be
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, something similar, yeah, but yeah. So,
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we just need to nail down a date in July. We can announce it in school last day.
Oh, yay, awesome, thank you.
That's awesome, yeah,
Thank you,
that's great.
Melissa.
Thank you,
Thank you
Melissa.
all. Thank you.
We do have a policy for the meeting on Monday.
I'll make it work.
Right, she's like, I.
I don't know what we got.
Um, not-
Oh, I have one other thing for under business, and I just wrote it in when John reminded about John, whichever one, the June meeting date, so we should nail
Okay.
that down now. It was the next one, yes.
Get the calendar out.
Kendra, you have your calendar.
Oh, you're on top of my stuff. And I'm old school and I do what I do.
Same.
All right, so graduation is the 17th, right?
Yes. But anything in June yet.
And the last day of school is
22nd.
22nd, okay.
We historically move it up from, well, if it's the second. If it was the old, it would be the old date, or we don't have to do Wednesday, because that doesn't work for Kim, we could do a different date that week, but like. Usually it's we try to do like the Wednesday right before graduation, if I'm not mistaken.
Which would be the 14th.
Which would be the 14th, but like I said, that we could do like the Tuesday or whatever works for Kim.
I have a hassle on all of those.
I think you guys were hoping earlier in June. Was that?
No, we wanted.
later.
We were
Later.
looking for
Okay.
the 14th
Closer
if
to
possible.
graduation.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Could we possibly do the 13th or the 12th or the 15th?
The 15th, I can't do, it's preschool graduation, my daughter graduates,
Okay,
yeah, I can't do the 15th.
but I can do the other days you
the
said.
12 or 13?
I can do the 12, 13,
Yeah.
or the 14.
I think, for our purposes, the 13th would be more advantageous to give us time to compile the data that we have to compile on
Okay,
whether it becomes a consensus or a vote.
all right,
13th would work.
so 13th.
That would be best for us.
It is. And thank you for that flexibility. I could try to bilocate between Sullivan and
We're not.
and here, but
Right. Yeah, we won't have to.
So is that gonna be at 6 still? Okay.
Right. So let's do the 13th at 6. Is there anything else for other business? Anybody got anything else? No, we're good. Committee reports. Personnel committee is meeting May 23rd. So there's nothing until then, as I know, anyway. Health and wellness, Kayla?
We met on the 12th and we are reviewing the policy, so we will be meeting more frequently than is typical. Our next meeting is on Monday. So we're gonna be going over the policy and reviewing all the things. And there's some restructuring happening and trying to add more people. You're supposed to have more community members, so.
Well, I was to say, because I dropped the ball, I was working on it today. Gina had asked last week if we would put out on Community Connections a thing, and I have it ready to go, but I wanted to ask you. So it was one community, one more community member, and
I think
a
we can
student, I
have
think.
any, wasn't it any amount, just community members?
So you want me to just word it as community members who are interested?
Right.
And she did say a student, but I wouldn't want to put that in our blurb. Maybe that's for,
Yeah, I think.
John to
have-
take care of.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay.
And then we are going forward with the health fair.
Yes.
We were hoping to schedule it for September 16th, which is a Saturday, from 10 to 2, and on the site of the high school gym.
What was it, the 16th?
Yeah, we had to move it to the 16th.
Okay, I was
because the
gonna say,
9th
where's
is
the
homecoming.
Oh, okay. Okay, so 9/16. I'll change that.
So we want to have permission from the subcommittee on the health fair to mail letters asking for, donations of gift cards, monetary donations. If they want to do that, to help us to buy any kind of supplies that we need. I don't know, I started a draft letter that the subcommittee will be reviewing, but I wanted to make sure that that was okay.
I think so. Just the consensus on that.
I don't know. I mean,
Because
well,
I guess matters how much people are giving you, but.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't expect it, we're not looking at like $1,000.
Yeah, yeah.
From anybody, we're looking at, like $50 gift card
Right.
maybe, or.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
We
know
might
what the
need-
policy is for subcommittee solution donations, so I'm not sure. If it, falls under.
I think if it's just basic, doesn't, you
You
can
know,
call it through.
Yeah, that's what
For
I
you, and you're good with it,
I don't even know if we have a single one.
right?
I'm not sure if Marilyn remembers. I don't think I don't know that we got any real monetary ones. We would get mostly like free oil change and that type of thing.
Right, just ask a question regarding student, so we need to put something out there. When is your next meeting? Monday, you said?
Monday, yeah.
So we'll see if we can get
3:30.
3:30.
Your library.
Okay. See if we can get somebody.
Perfect.
Connor.
Yeah,
So what are you doing Monday?
Then we just have a policy meeting.
Rats, we can't double. Is your meeting at 3:30 also?
4:00.
Oh, see, you could come for the first half hour.
You'll already.
You got your money, Connor, you're good.
All right.
But Connor, seriously though, if you know somebody,
Yeah.
that would maybe, underclassmen that would like to be on it, because we want somebody that's not gonna graduate this year. So,
Not in your class.
yeah,
Now, I just would like to recommend that maybe we have students that are interested in the ELO and the health area. It might be a really good, that might be like a requirement of their ELO to sit on this committee. I mean, we had some kids that just signed up, so
Oh, nice.
that could be. They're not in the ELO yet, but they might find out they're gonna be.
And
By the
they
way,
have a requirement.
By the way,
ELO is this
right,
committee?
starting this
Yeah,
year.
right.
Something like that.
That sounds good. Anything else? Good.
No, that was it.
Finance budget, there's nothing new there.
You waited so long to be able to say that, right?
Staff development.
We are meeting, I believe, June 7th. Yeah.
Legislation.
So for a couple of things, so NHSBA, we sent out an email, their call for resolutions for the delegate assembly, which is on October 14th. The deadline for resolutions is January 28th. This board's never put in a resolution, but we always could. So think about if you want to do a resolution. I can send you some from the other years. I know we have them every year we look at, and then we vote on them before the delegate assembly. But if you want to send us to be thinking about them.
Do you want to give us a brief description of what that is?
The resolutions of the
Yes.
delegate assembly are all of it. So
Regulations.
So the resolutions, boards will submit resolutions to the NHSBA board, and then, us.
What is
Oh, what is a resolution? Okay, yeah. So you submit them to the, so just the process, so then we'll vote on them, and then they go to the delegate assembly, and what it is the resolutions are, if adopted by the body of the delegate assembly, which are made up of delegates from all the school boards, that are members of NHSBA, that they guide our advocacy and what we, I use the word lobby, but what we advocate for at the State House. So a resolution might be something like, this is just a really benign one. Usually they used to be really benign, like about we support full funding of special education, or no cuts in special education. The last couple of years, there've been a couple firearms in school ones, and you get kind of pro, not pro firearms, but no regulation of firearms, and then you get ones that are like, it's a safe school zone, blah, blah, blah. So basically, there was one about diversity, I think, last year and stuff like that, kind of in response to people about critical race theory, about, well, we support diversity, we support learning about all that, so.
So they're basically like recommendations that you want the Hampshire School Board to be in support of.
To be advocating for, yeah,
Okay.
so,
At the
that makes
state
sense.
level, right?
at the state, yeah.
To become law or not.
Yeah, so then
makes
they'll go to it, so we tell them, okay, so we are pro full funding for special ed. Barrett and then legislative chairperson Becky will go to when there's bills, and they will speak in favor or against whatever the body wanted them to do. So,
Thank you.
yeah, so it's just so it guides the legislation, our legislative priorities. So I can send out so you can get an idea of some of the wording of them. And then, once they're adopted, there's a whole schedule of how many years that they become then part of our statement, so beliefs or whatever. Other thing, there's a right to know webinar, coming up on May 17th. It's part 3 of the right to know series. Another one was like this afternoon or tonight, but this one is good. It's on digital communication, email, and social media. A lot of the big surprise to a lot of board members when they get on board is like, you are no longer supposed to view, like when you talk about the school, even on your personal page, like, it's your personal page, people view you as a school board member. So, so this one is a good one. It's at noon. So like I will listen to them when I signed up. Yeah, and I'll listen to them sometimes on my lunch break and whatever. But if you sign up and can't make it, you get access to the recording. So that one's a good one. I was gonna be at last night's, but I had technical issues. Our router died, so I couldn't do it. So I know Kendra, you had mentioned last month you were signed up for it last night for the new board orientation. So I don't know how that one went.
Well, and I spoke with Maria because I couldn't make it last night, but she said that I can view it
Okay,
in
yeah.
the next couple days, right? They'll post it.
Yeah, if you were signed up, you get the, okay, cool, you get the, yeah, if you have already signed up for it, you get the recording, so awesome. And then I had left, as part of signing up for that, when it was in person, you used to get that building a board member, becoming a better board member book that was at your spot.
Yeah.
That one is actually from Julia. I don't know if you'll get another one in the mail from the NHSBA for signing up. If you do, just maybe bring it in one of them that we're gonna have on here, that would be nice, but that is a gift from Julia. And you have one, right?
Yep, I was gonna say I have one.
You have one, yeah. Yeah. Other legislative kind of thing, SAU 29, and I can send this out if anybody's interested. I'm gonna go to this. SAU 29 is doing a presentation on the 11th at 6:30 at Keene Middle School to discuss the proposed changes to ED 306. Did you want that information?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's open to the public. It's not just for SAU 29. So yeah, I can, it's, and they're gonna have presenters there. I'm not sure who, but
Yeah, you can send it to
but
me.
yeah, and for those, for Kayla and Kendra, ED 306 is the set of ed rules that governs everything, education. And there've been a big committee, and NHSBA actually has a webinar back from January, I think that I'll send you, that was very good. And there is kind of a mixed bag that they're, you know, rewriting a bunch of them, updating a bunch of things, and like Fred Vermonte did mostly did a webinar, but like Barrett's on it, several other you know, people who are well known in the state. So that's gonna be great. So you know, I'll send that information along.
So is it about the rewrites?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is kind of, you know, and they're still working on them, but they sent it out in January and did like a side by side. And some of it's kind of scary, some of it's benign, but yeah, so I think that would be really good for more of us to attend. And on a similar note, today, just this afternoon, Reaching Higher in New Hampshire posted about Senate Bill 226. Now I sound like Jim O'Malley because he used to always throw out the bills. Senate Bill 226, it's been retained in the House Education Committee and not passed on with the whole crossover thing yet. They're going to work on it through the summer, as it could have really far-reaching impact on minimum standards and then subsequently funding. Just a quick look at what they posted, and I was reading a few things about it on my lunch break. Like 2 years ago, Commissioner Edel Blue led kind of a thing that wanted to totally chop down minimum standards, right? To just be basically reading, writing, arithmetic. The Senate Education and some other groups kind of responded by, well, okay, no, we're gonna spell more things out. Like you need more like civics, you need rhetoric and logic, you need arts. Now you must do music and visual arts, because before you could get away in high school with dance, music, or visual arts. Now you must offer one of all of these things. There's several other things too, right? Donna's like, we're really like, yeah. So they kind of responded like, oh, heck no, we're gonna add more. Well, Senate Bill 266 is totally partisan, just, I think it's only Republican at this point, putting it in. And it looks to really like walk back a lot of those gains that were made. You know, last summer or the year before with adding things. So it looks to really kind of walking back the gains to the minimum standards. So that's one to really keep an eye on, because that
Funding would lead with that too, right?
exactly, if you say, okay, you don't need anything with, you know, whatever, then okay, well then you don't have to, you don't have to fund you for it. So that's a big piece. Besides not only not being great for education, it can lose a lot of funding with that. So that's one to watch. So, and NHSBA gave honor scholarship. That's the only other NHSBA thing I have, so. All right. Great, thanks.
Pass, Kendra?
Oh, I just went to my first meeting a little bit ago. There really wasn't much to talk about because Marianne has submitted for the grants, but she's just waiting to hear what we'll be getting, if any, and that will be here Monday, I think she said, right, Joe?
Yes,
Monday?
that's what I expected.
Yeah.
The answer you need?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, she said the last time that they did it, they had pushed it back to the end of May, so they're hopeful that it will be here by Monday. And that was pretty much it. We have our next meeting, June 14th.
Probably June 13th.
Yeah, just this-
Oh, yeah, probably June 13th. And you'll message Mary Ann, Joe?
Selectmen.
So guys, I dropped the ball on selectmen. I need to have like an official meeting date, and I was like, oh, I just have to make it to a Monday. Well, if I don't write it down, it doesn't happen. So
Monday, after the school board meeting would be.
And I can't-
19th or something?
yeah, and I can't do the 8th because I already have a meeting and an interview. So I
Oh,
should
yeah,
write
for this
down,
meeting, yeah. for
I
this
should
meeting,
write
yeah.
down May
Look at that,
15th.
I was getting away, I was thinking June.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
no,
no,
we still have to do May.
I was gonna get home on.
So I am gonna write down selectmen meeting. Cause just being like, yeah, I'll go to a Monday.
Right.
What time are their meetings also?
6, I wanna say, ask Sean. Cause he goes to all of
I
that.
think it's like.
Do you want me to have Sean text you a reminder? I don't.
Usually I get the, where are you?
I don't think he's on.
He's not. I wrote 6 PM, I think.
All right, facilities maintenance. Do we have a meeting? I thought we had a meeting, April 21st. I showed up for a meeting. I had my calendar and nobody was here. And it was vacation week, so I wasn't sure. If we were
Like, are we?
So I don't know when the next, I don't know when it is.
It was the third, like Friday or something, right? Are we
Yeah,
sticking
which would have been the
with
21st of April. Is it? gonna
Right,
be
we
the-
were all on vacation.
Yeah, so is it gonna be the third Friday this month?
I don't know if we reset it.
that? No, I don't think we did.
So it's on the calendar, because I haven't heard that the date. And I'm sorry, I did cancel the one that we called, so.
I just, maybe because I'm new to it, I didn't get, that's okay. I figured it was probably vacation, but I was like, I'm just gonna show up. If there's anybody here, great. If not, I'll just go home.
Because sometimes we do still have.
Right, I know.
So what is the?
So the date
So
for,
May 19 at 2:15, unless the committee wants to change it, I just kept it as it is.
I mean, it works for me.
What day was that, the 19th, you said? I'm not available that day, but we don't need me.
I don't know anything about the facilities committee, so I can't say if we need you or not. I don't know who is needed.
Well, I think Sean can.
Sean Lee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Too many Sean's in our
I know,
lives.
it's like Sean. So I'll have to zoom in because I don't have enough PTO time to be that early for so many of these meetings. But it works for mostly all of you because you're here, so I'll just zoom in.
Okay, that one's in the calendar. All right. Where are we? Community connections. If there's any end of school activities that you'd like to be posted on community connections, I would appreciate having that information.
You can take it from the principal report, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've got a few more though, so we'll
Yeah.
get you. Get you that.
Behavioral support.
So we just met on the 2nd. And the focus was, on sort of SEL and how that's going in both buildings and any barriers. And then talking about our next meeting, we're gonna focus on the transition between 5th and 6th grade and sort of ways to ease that. So, I don't know. We'll have to rope you into that.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can invite Donna, right?
But it was, the focus of our last meeting was more on, they did a little bit of a book study about language and trauma-informed practices and sort of where our students are currently at and
Great. Joint loss committee.
I have not been to one of those yet. We do have one on May 22nd at 3:30 though.
Can you guys refresh my memory? What does joint loss do?
It has to do, it's not quite facilities, it's mostly like stuff with, like incidents, like, accidents.
Oh, that's right.
A kid
Yeah.
injured a teacher, whatever, those kind of things, plus also the committee once or twice a year. I see Teresa's on and she's well versed in it, she's been on it all her years, they do, not a subcommittee, but several of them, not the whole committee, will do like the tours of the buildings and really look at, the safety and the whatnot, no, this carpet is coming up, or, blah, 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 that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Policy committee.
Try to beat that one.
Yeah, I think so too.
When's our next meeting?
Monday, you and I know that. Superintendent search committee. Nothing new except for, we're gonna revisit that in the fall. Tuition exploratory committee. Kendra.
we also have not been to one of those.
I have a question about that, because it's not the same thing as you guys reaching out to Winchester. This is a separate committee, and last month I had given, I think Maria, the ad we used last time, so that's gonna just be regenerated whenever we get it up and rolling.
Well, yeah, I was gonna actually ask you about that.
So I don't. Yeah, I don't think we have a committee yet.
We didn't.
Not in total.
Just, we
anyway.
only set the board members, because Gina and I were on the one previously before COVID. So, yeah, so we just, and it's in teams who used to be on, or at least I can send an email, I think I might have last month. So,
Well, we have one more meeting with Winchester. Coming up, and where we left off with them is that Winchester's gonna have their attorney review the Keene contract. Just to see what kind of a flexibility they may have within that contract. I think they have 3 years left. We got some numbers, and Justin worked them into kind of a a 10,000-foot view of how the kids would fit into the high school schedule. There's some stuff we need to do around that. But Winchester seems to be very interested. And it would be, I think we both need each other. At this point, I've said before that I don't think the high school will be here in 5 years unless we do something significant, which would be something like Winchester. So it'd be great if the tuition exploratory committee could be ready to go. Because I get the sense that we're going to want to act pretty quickly. That's what I hope it is.
so I know when we talked about it in the fall and early winter and, prior to January, the tuition exploratory committee is separate in my mind, and I know Sean and I'm talking to Gina too, because she was already doing it, separate from Winchester. Like, we don't need a committee to do Winchester. We authorize just you two to talk to them and then bring that back to the board. The tuition exploratory committee, and if it works with Winchester, it might be a moot point. We might not want to do the tuition exploratory. That was to look at, and this is what we did in 2019, started to look at just broadly tuitioning anybody here who wants to. So I'll talk to Gina about it and see what her recollection was and from back before, back in like November and December when we started talking about this again. In my mind, it's two different things. Like, if you guys talk to Winchester and you come with a proposal, bring it to the board, that's separate from the tuition exploratory committee.
Okay,
And that, at least that's how I've been looking at it and kind of talking about it these last couple months, so. But let me talk to her and see, since we're involved with it before, because we don't need a whole committee to talk about with townspeople. I don't think that all of that.
yeah,
Do
this,
we,
this,
with the Winchester piece, that's a board decision, I think. But I don't
I
know.
guess.
I mean, it
guess,
sounds like
yeah,
there's some work
ultimately,
to be done, though.
ultimately
Right,
it
you
know
would
what I
be.
That's
Uh,
why I was thinking maybe that
That
committee should
should-
merge into a new
Right.
purpose. If-
100%.
If you need a committee for this, I think that would be appropriate to kind of merge from, we're not looking broadly anymore, now we're looking more succinct.
But do we need a committee? That's my question. Maybe it's for Matt Upton. Do we need to make a whole committee? Because we've already authorized you to meet with Winchester's people.
Yeah.
And what is when you do a tuition agreement, what is with one district like Hinsdale and Winchester? Or like when they did a tuition agreement with Keene, did they involve what did you have to involve the community? Should you involve a committee, or is it just
Yeah,
a
I'll talk-
board to board decision?
Yeah, I'll talk with Matt Upton
Yeah,
about that,
that's the-
about how to proceed. I think it's gonna be up to us, up to you, how you would like to proceed with that. I know that, the Winchester superintendent,
Lynn Carey.
Lynn Carey, did mention that we're probably gonna want our boards to meet at some point.
Yeah, and if you go back and search the Sentinel for this topic, like we've met back and so I forget what year it was, Dr. C was here.
I was gonna say probably like 2005.
I was gonna say 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Because
I
I
was
was at
divorced, so it was maybe like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Because I was,
We were
talking
talking
about the
2013.
board and like Kevin Bazan was on their budget committee back with
Brian
different
Moser.
people like this, yeah. So,
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can proceed as you wish. I'll talk with Ben Upton and see what he would suggest for a committee. And
Or what the process is, if
Yeah.
you need it.
Cause
I
it's, I'm assuming gonna be quite a bit of work merging
yeah,
a massive amount of students
Yeah.
into our
be
school.
quite a bit of work.
Yeah, but Matt will be like really helpful because he's done this.
All right, good, we'll do that. Good news, though, I think we're very interested.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Citizen comments. Have anything going on?
Question, I was pretty impressed with the presentation that Donna and the other one. I apologize for forgetting her name, Jean.
Yeah.
From my perspective as a high school teacher, I was wondering, was there any discussion about bringing the high school teachers at least to be aware of this particular program? Because again, as a high school teacher, sometimes it can be, I'll just use the word, a little frustrating with not knowing what's going on the middle school and the elementary school. And I've always said that if we understood what everybody was doing, it makes it easier to continue. And I think Kelly, you talked about that.
Yeah.
Continue with the things that they've been doing.
That's a good
But if
point.
we're not aware of what it is that you're doing, it's pretty tough to get, like, oh, I didn't know about that. So was there any discussion brought in?
Good point.
I don't think there's been discussion yet, because I think we're still in such the pilot stage, but that's a really good point about that continuity and that vertical alignment piece and just having everybody be aware. So I think once a decision is made, that could be something that we sort of introduce during the beginning in August, or maybe Joe knows better.
So at one point, former English teacher and now librarian Gina Hammond was on the
She
committee.
was, yeah.
And the committee rose to 20 to 21 people at one point in time. So it was pretty broadly based that anybody who had an interest could be involved in it. And it just grew too big, and then we kind of like put the brakes on it and reshuffled the deck.
But I can see that we would probably introduce a new curriculum in opening days. So everybody would be aware of it.
I think a lot of teachers would be really, I mean, I was
Yeah.
pretty excited about it.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be there.
I know.
Well, it'd be great to build into the, the calendar for next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll add that to the list. Of
Yeah.
The one day that we have to get
Yeah.
everything. in.
we need more. people.
I know, I
Yes,
agree.
yes.
Action
I
board.
know.
Yeah, but that is a good point.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Mary,
Marilyn.
because that will impact the students they'll be getting. They're gonna be at a different point than they were
Mhm.
before,
I
so.
love hearing that question. Thank you.
Great question.
Anybody online, Maria? Chris, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We go to Jackie. Jackie, I saw your chat. Do you want to share about that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm just wondering if the superintendent is done June 30th, why is there a wait? Like, what's the process for that?
So we're right now looking for an interim superintendent for next year. And we've got some applications for that, but the permanent superintendent committee will reconvene in the fall to find the permanent. So that may be where the confusion is.
Can I bounce off?
Okay.
that and Say, why are we only looking for an intern? Why not a permanent superintendent?
So we have more time.
Yeah, because we put the permanent search on hold, when Kim was gonna stay, so there's a ton more work, like, we're gonna jump into it right now to get somebody permanent for, September, it just wouldn't work out, so we're gonna do an interim.
That's most.
Why
most-
wouldn't it work out? What is the process that would make it wouldn't work out?
Most superintendents at this point have committed to the schools that they're going to for next year. because contracts come up April, May area. So, and it would just be like a time crunch to try to get it all in before September. Or even August at this point, really, or July, because that's when they would start, you know, so it's like, it's too short of a process to try to figure out and try to find the right person for the job. Because that's the most important part of it, is to find the right person. So we really want to have the time to be able to go through the process of the interviewing and there's a whole process that we've already done towards it with the committee. So we want to be able to follow that process with finding the permanent one. So we make sure we can get the right person for the right fit.
And additionally, and we talked about this in public before too, that we you know, it's a 60% position. And in the part of the search we had done, because we already started interviewing candidates and whatnot, when we put it on hold, we weren't getting we were hardly getting anybody. We were getting like people who weren't really serious, you know, they weren't gonna move here or whatever. And the other ones didn't work out, didn't, you know, fit our need. And we had talked, the board had talked to them, so we were gonna revisit, and the committee felt this way too, the superintendent search committee, about increasing the position so that we could offer New Hampshire retirement. 60% you don't get New Hampshire retirement. We had some younger people who would need it to be 35 hours a week to do New Hampshire retirement. So we would need time to revisit that, and that can't be accomplished next year after a $437,000 budget cut. So we would have to, through the budgeting process for 20, where are we now? 24, 25, fit that in if the board continued to want that to happen. And we really, as search committee members and other search committee members can attest, we're not gonna find anybody of quality in a permanent position at 60%, because you get retired people, you get, you know, and which has served us okay all these years, but now the level of candidates we're seeing, less people out there because people are not coming back out of retirement to go into education. So we get younger people who could do 80-point-something% it comes to, so that they get the it's less about the money, it's more about, you know, getting into the job. So
And the
And
job
the
itself
work-
is just not,
it's
it's
not
not
worth a
really a
60% job.
60% job.
I mean,
They're working for free, really.
Right, yeah,
So-
yeah.
We've batted around other combinations of things too that we, you know, have to decide on the board, but we've given ourselves time for that. But most, you know, so she said, the timing of it, the amount of work to have to jump back into it this late, and the money. We need to be able to build it into the next budget, and it would be a higher position. But we have, you know, we have a bunch of some really decent candidates we'll talk about in the interim.
Any other questions? Did you have anything else, Jackie? Okay.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
iPhone, there's 3 of you, so do any of you have a comment that you'd like to share?
And just as procedure, they need to state their name for the record. Everybody's name has to be stated if they're an iPhone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Lindsay, do you have any comments? Okay, Teresa, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you. Teresa Diorio, parent. The first thing I want to do is congratulate Connor on the scholarship. He's done a fabulous job of representing the school and the board. So congratulations to Connor. I also want to thank Kayla for bringing up the conversation about the cell phone use, especially on transportation. And I do think, and I find myself a little bit as a wordsmith, that there's a lot about that piece that probably should be further talked about and discussed, and then language be rewritten about. I know that the school board had approved coach buses for any travel over 2 hours a number of years ago. And at this point, I'm not sure if that's anything that's in the budget going forward. I believe that it's actually been stopped for the current year. I've had, obviously, both my children are athletes. And I think when it comes to, and I, again, going back to one of Kayla's comments about it kind of being the coach's responsibility, it's not necessarily as safe for a coach to be walking up and down the buses and manning the kids' cell phone use. I do think it's important for kids to have something that they are doing on these long bus rides. And obviously, as John Barth brought up, the idea of this is how my game went, talking to their parents, being able to get back in touch with their parents in terms of when to pick them up if they're younger or any of those things. So I just think there needs to be many more discussions about the way that the first reading was written about that. And the only, I actually, that's it. So I thank the board for considering that and understanding that you guys had a lot of discussions in that subcommittee. And I would just really, I guess, speak to as a parent of athletes and also kids who have gone on field trips and senior class trip coming up, long bus ride, et cetera. And I believe right now students are allowed to use their phones at lunch periods. So to be able to not be able to access them on a bus ride, unless it was educational, but they at lunch, they can for other purposes, is just a little silly.
Well, like we said, that was just an oversight in the final draft. That was not the intent of the committee at all, so. Then we thank Kayla for catching it.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, that was my point, just to, thank Kayla for catching it. And just when you guys are rewriting that for your final review, or I don't remember if you guys do a second draft and then final, it's gone over a number of years, different ways. But just to be really cautious about how that's done. And then also to maintain the safety of the coaches, or if it's a field trip or something. And also, the kids have to be accountable. So they need to have the consequences. So if they're using their devices inappropriately, it shouldn't necessarily fall back onto the teacher, the advisor, or the coach. It needs to go back to the child.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We get everybody? Everybody, okay. All right. Something else. I did get an invitation to that I forgot to mention with the Yellow Mentor Celebration dinner. If I have already RSVP'd to. So if you hadn't done that. Then we just need a motion. Yes.
Yep, I make motion. A second.
All in favor? Oh, roll call, sorry.
Yes.
Yes. You're in Paula.
And who do we need?